to the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impacts. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. All right, welcome to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today, we're going to be answering the question, what if AI could actually write enterprise-grade code, not just vibe coding? This is a super, super important topic to me and to anybody that's out there building real software tech. And to answer that question, we have Adir Ben Yehuda. He is the CEO of Autonomy AI, where he is removing the technology barriers to growth using AI that can write real production-grade code. A two-time startup founder with 10 years leading sales, marketing, and business dev teams, Adir is making AI finally work for the enterprise with speed and standards. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Adir.
Thank you, Drew. It's great to be here. I love the opening music. It's great.
Get a little, yeah.
Good energy.
Yeah. So, all right, I want to, before we jump into the show, I just want to talk about why I wanted Autonomy AI on the show, and what I'm super excited about here. First of all, you're a super great guy. Super enjoyed meeting Lev. He's your CMO. He's the one that kind of started this whole conversation. But you all are doing the most important thing in software development out there right now, and that is working with enterprises that have huge user code bases. So I have done software development in the past. I've done it for highly sensitive people, and you can't just be like slapping code up there. Writing code is completely different than writing good software. They're completely different things. And I mean, I'm just ecstatic. This is exactly what we should be using AI for. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. That's great. That's what we're trying to do.
All right. So you've done multiple companies. You've done 10 years of sales and business development. Before we start talking about Autonomy AI, which is a fantastic technology, talk to me about where your journey started. When did you know, hey, I want to play this entrepreneur game?
So I think every time, and that's a lesson that I've learned, every time that I work for a company and I was an employee in a different organization, kind of build a small team, I thought to myself, hey, I want to do things here differently. And I think I can engage a little bit more. So I was happy on one hand, but I was never happy from the entire organization. I'm like, I want to make a change. How can I make a change, right? I was trying to be more proactive and started to push things further upstream. But at the end of the day, I saw nothing was changing. And at some point, I started thinking to myself, I wonder what if I can build my own company, right? What if I can build my own processes, my own team around me, and make sure to create a real impact. And that's where I started thinking about, yeah, maybe I should be an entrepreneur. And it was like the early innings when I started thinking about the first option, the first company I started building. I was like, this is actually great. I can do a lot of things by my own and I can make a huge impact. I can make a lot of decisions. The second morning I woke up, I'm like, oh my God, I have so many things that I need to do, right? And all the burden is on me and there is no one to send it for. I'm like, oh, what have I done to myself? So that's kind of like the journey that you have.
No, it's a real journey, man. For me, what I love about being an entrepreneur the most is every client I get is a personal client. Like when I worked at Fortune 500s, I've worked at Fortune 100s, I worked for the federal government. And it's really easy to slip into this, the customer, this mystical, magical source where money, like they give me something to do every day and they give me some money, but they're just this person. If I make them mad, I don't really care. Whereas when I get a client, that person trusts me with their most important work in life, which is what they do for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that's how you decided to do entrepreneurship. What was your first business?
So the first business that I made was actually, it was back in the days, but we focused around media. And I'm not sure if like some of the audience really know, but like I would say 15 years ago, there was no social media. Don't tell anyone, but like social media was just the early beginnings. Yeah, it's shocking, I know. And people are like, what is this thing? And I saw a huge opportunity. I was like, I wonder what if businesses could actually put what they're doing out here. Maybe some people would look at it, right? And it was such a green field, like it's such a blue ocean. No one really understood what's going on there. And we basically built a media agency around those kind of things, right? So we started like building the entire narrative around videos online, posts online. It was like different kind of images and build an entire strategy for those organizations. And it was very interesting. The one thing that was hard for us to explain to people is how can you actually price this? wait, why do you mean that I need to pay for each post? Or why do I need to pay your retainer to write a few words on my social feed, quote unquote? But talking about clients, right? We turn them into clients, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy moly, we're getting business out of this. This is great. It was like a great thing for us to do.
No, I love this. I tell people all the time, you got to be marketing. Marketing is the number. When you're the CEO, you're the number one message bearer. You're constantly on a stage. You're talking to clients, you're talking to your team, or you're talking to suppliers, or you're talking to your banker. And so I think that I'm not surprised, but I'm excited to hear that you started out in kind of the social media arena in media and advertising. I mean, probably more marketing than advertising, because that is the key difference between a hobby and a business is advertising and clients, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you start out with media, but now you're doing hardcore code, like not just vibe coding, but hardcore code. Before we talk about, because I don't want to talk about what the company's doing right now, just help me understand the transition from a media company to a software company.
So after I sold this company, I actually took roles as a VP sales and CRO in other companies and other organizations. Always like starting from 0 to 1, right? Being the first employee there, taking a product that does not exist or does not have any product market fit, and trying to push it upstream. And one of the things that I had to do is to take a dream and go ahead to the Drews of the world and tell them, hey, you can actually sign an agreement with us. We will deliver-ish at some point. So that's at some point, right? But we had a lot of clients like this. Was like, this feels not fully baked, but I like you and I like the concept. We'll pay something for this. And I did this across the board. I took 3 companies from 0 to over 10 million like that, right?
Oh, wow. That's the real deal.
It was great. But one thing that happened when you reach this 1-2 million, you get competition. Yes. And all of a sudden, if your hurdles before were like, oh, I don't really have something that I need, but I need to actually execute, that I need to actually sell into, all of a sudden I have competition against me. And that's where you start to have your sleepless nights. What if my competitors are going to be faster? What if my competitors are going to be more innovative? What if my competitors are going to sell this cheaper because they were able to develop this cheaper, right? And that was like, my state of mind was always like, I woke up in the morning. Have you ever seen this show, Severed? I think Severed on Apple TV.
Yes, exactly. The horror show, you mean the horror series?
When they go to work and they forget about their personal life.
Yes,
that was my day today. I'm like, I'm going to war, baby. Now, I need to fight clients. I need to fight competition. But it was a day-to-day thing, and that's what I did. I spent in less 10 years doing, right, doing all those kind of things that led me to the point and what we're doing today.
I love it. No, actually, I ran into this malaise at a couple of places that I worked, where folks are kind of in the middle of the company and they're willing to work a little bit of overtime, but they're like, well, it's time for lunch. And they don't have that energy that you're talking about. And you like when you're dealing with software and things that matter to customers that you personally know, you have to show up with that energy every day. This is, Sarah is paying me to knock this out for her. I love that. Yeah. I love that energy. I love that energy. Okay, real quick, because this is the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. What is your best piece of leadership advice? You've led 3 companies. You've built them from nothing to millions of dollars. What is your best piece of advice?
I think the ability for a leader to understand 2 things, I would say. First thing is when you start building a team, everyone would say, hey, build a great team around you. I'm like, thank you for the $1 billion advice here. But the key thing is really understand, look in deeply within yourself, where are you lacking? What you don't know how to do well? Are you less organized? Are you less passionate? Are you less coherent when you show things, right? And then find a team around you that can actually complement where you're not strong. And once you find this kind of model end to end, you can actually generate a great team, but actually can be a great leader. That's my second advice. Make sure that people will shine with their strength. If those are your weaknesses, people could shine with their strength and lead ahead. And then you build a confidence in around the team. First of all, it's a very strong team that can know how to work with each other. But you also have confidence on your team to execute in places that you're weak, and they feel empowered to actually execute in those areas.
I love it. I love it. I actually hired a guy. I now know that I hired a chief of staff, but when I first hired him, I didn't know that's what it was called. But I was like, listen, I'm in charge on Monday morning from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and we're going to plan out the whole week. And then you're in charge for the rest of the week.
That's great.
Because I'm really good at a meeting. Like if you put me in a meeting, I mean, I can put on the appropriate hat and we can make decisions and that type of thing. But time gets away from me because I get excited about whatever I'm doing in the moment. And he ran me all week, and then I was in charge, and then he ran me all week, and we got so much stuff done.
Yeah.
I love that. Find the people that fill in your gaps and then let them shine. I think that's great advice. Okay, let's start talking. Let's start talking software. So there was a moment you made some software and you saw AI come onto the screen, and you're like, well, I've made my pictures. I did that little silly code thing. When was the epiphany that, oh, we need to make enterprise level code for AI?
I mean, two areas. First of all, it was always there, right? Like if you go back to the last 10 years, the one thing I was scared about, and the one thing every single CEO or every go-to-market leader is scared about is like, what if my competitors are going to do something before me? How can I be more competitive? It's like it's a really scary moment, like in every business. So that was the first moment. I'm like, how can I make this faster? Like I used to go to my engineering team, my product team, and they were like, this is a great idea. We will sit down for the next 2 quarters and figure this out. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I have like $5 million in revenue that I need to hit in the next few months. I don't have 2 quarters. So that was the first thing. And then when I started, me and my other co-founders started exploring the space, we saw one big gap. We saw that there was like a huge promise in, as you mentioned, right? Writing code. That's okay. You can do some of the things there, but can it actually write software? Can it actually move the needle and create a dent? And we started exploring all those kind of things. And we talked with a lot of companies, a lot of engineers that are actually doing this. And we reached a very conclusive understanding that it's like, it doesn't really move the needle. Yes, if you're a super senior engineer that knows what he's doing, it will maybe help you accelerate between 10 to 15%. But if you're a company, if you're an enterprise company especially, it wouldn't move the needle, maybe in 1%. So what are we actually doing here, right? So we started thinking about, okay, this is what we want to tackle. We want to make companies move faster. We want to help CEOs sleep good at night and execute on that.
No, I love this. So I'm calling this the AI hangover. So everybody's like the 2023, people were like, what's this? I don't believe it. 2024 is like, hey, it still has 7 fingers per hand. And then 2025, folks were like, oh, I could implement this. And so everybody started rolling out budgets and spending money on consultants and on implementation. And 2026 rolls around and they're like, none of my KPIs changed. And yeah. So what you're talking about, it can make an individual faster. If you just use ChatGPT, it can make an individual faster. I used to use it to document my code. I'd write up some code and I'd be like, hey, I had a document that had all my variables, right? And I'd be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Just go back in there and document the code because I don't want to document the code. And that worked okay. So basically I was getting AI to do the stuff that I wasn't going to do myself anyway. And I just felt guilty about it. But that's not a good not a good way to run a business. So all right, you're in this spot. You realize that your competitors are nipping at your heels. You're realizing that there's no answer here. Did you meet your Wazakowski? Who are you, the Wazakowski, like the tech genius, or do you have a tech genius on your team?
So our tech genius is not Wazakowski. It's Tammuz. Is our CTO, and he's one of those whiz kids. And the first thing he's thought to himself, and this was like back in 2023, he tried to do a research on how we can actually execute on this problem. And the first thing he came up with, he found this like small research in MIT that talked about agents. And he was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. No one has tried this before. Yes. Let's understand what we're going to do with it. And we started looking at agents and started exploring what agents can do. And we quickly came to realize that agents is one thing, but the real challenge here is how you build a real robust context, right? You step into an enterprise organization, an existing code. What do you make of it? How do you actually can execute on something like this and feed the agents that you've built in a coherent way? And that was what brought everything together. So Tammuz actually built the technology that, in my opinion, is like rocket science, right? The ability to be deployed in any code base, existing code base, doesn't matter the horse show there, analyze it, model it, and then spoon feed the agent on what it needs to do from that matter.
Yeah, no, that's really, this is so good. I've told people for years, AI is like a hyper intelligent PhD level 5-year-old. Like they know, like, and they have this little tiny memory, and as long as you stay within their code, the token base, you can get really amazing, just like blow your mind output. But then 2.5 pages later, they forgot what they talked about, right? So you have this, and they have no context. And so your magic here, and we're going to get to the real magic in a second, the stuff I'm really excited about, how you have opened up coding to non-coders, but we'll talk about that later. So the technical magic here is not just agents, that's a thing that exists, but it's how you can grab that context of the current existing code base and make that accessible.
Exactly.
I'm not asking you to dig into your secret sauce, but what are you most excited about with that?
I think it's the ability to actually, well, two things. A, the ability to be deployed and provide value, right, to my clients, to Autonomy clients on their existing code base. So I have no limits in terms of what code base I could be deployed, and I have no limits on what companies I could serve. So it creates a huge opportunity for us. The second thing that excites me the most about this is the operator. Like you can literally pick 2 clicks of a button, bring it to your summer intern, just connect everything based on the workflow that we have, and that's it. Like unlike other products in the market, let's say if you use Cursor or Claude, you can build Cursor rules, you can build Claude MD, but the person who actually writes those rules needs to know what they're doing and needs to maintain them and needs to understand it's coherent and actually makes sense, right? To do sanity checks on them. The most exciting part, or one of the most exciting parts about what we're doing, and it's technology, we call it ACE, right? An agentic context engine. You don't really need to have any prior knowledge on the code base. You don't need to have really prior knowledge on coding at all. We will do the entire mapping for you, for that matter. So we kind of democratizing this like insane ability to everyone inside the organization.
So this is what gets me, this is why I wanted you on the show. And so we're going to start talking about what this really means practically in the day-to-day operations. There's kind of 2 spacefaring nerd channels out there. There's Star Trek and there's Star Wars. And in Star Wars, they use technology kind of as bounty hunters, and like they basically use technology the way that we use gasoline powered things. It's just kind of this ancillary thing. But in Star Trek, the new technology enabled us to rise above our base level and enabled us to reach like world peace and then to start bringing that peace to the galaxy. AI, if used correctly, can enable the non-coder to start doing code. It can enable the it can help me get better people skills. It can help me understand engineering concepts. It brings all those things that we've spent years and years learning, and it now allows one person to be more like a Renaissance man. And that excites me. That excites me. So, all right, so let's start getting into this really cool feature. Why is Autonomy AI so powerful for a non-coding based set of users?
So let me use your metaphor about Star Trek and Star Wars, right? So with Star Wars, what essentially they're doing, they're taking a quote unquote an existing technology and trying to accelerate or existing resources and trying to make them 10, 20, 30, 40% better, more funner. In Star Trek, it's a whole new paradigm, right? They're basically saying, hey, we're doing things completely differently. And I think the way we were looking at things with Autonomy AI, and that's the first part, is we're not thinking in the current paradigm. What the problem we're trying to resolve is not, hey, we have an existing workflow, we have existing tools, or we have existing way of work. How can we make it better by 10%, 20%? What we try to do, and that's like the focus that we had all the time, is how can we actually build a whole new paradigm? Who's to say that that's how you need to write or to execute on generating software inside an organization? So that's where we started, building the context. And the other impact of this was not just building the context, but understanding semantically what the product that we're working on is doing. And from that matter, enabling in plain language non-developers to actually execute on the code. Now, the semantic understanding of a specific product and a specific code base helps us cover things that non-technical people understand or don't know they have to do. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to build a whole new login page. We have clients that it's one of the great examples that I have. Like, you build a whole login page. You can generate a whole login page as a product person. Great, it will be fully functional. What you don't know is behind the code, you need to have different validations, and you need to connect it to different APIs. You need to make sure that you have all those security measurements, right? What Autonomy can do for you is saying, great non-technical individual, great product person, I built everything, and I also did all the dirty work for you. I did all the security measurements, I did all the validations, and all of a sudden we're creating like not just a real co-pilot that will work with you, but a full new paradigm of how you execute code, because you have someone that can cover up for the things you don't know, actually.
Yeah, and that's actually that is a non-trivial amount of skill. So it used to be you'd have to have, you know, a senior coder or a senior staff coder that you're paying $250,000 a year, and everybody looks at him and is like, "You don't do anything. You just sit at a computer and you tell me why I can't do my ideas, and you tell me that I have to buy a new server stack." And just, you know, we have this person that we're paying a huge amount of money, and they're just knowers, right? They're just like, "No, you can't do that." Oh well, it's going to take 6 months. But Autonomy AI is doing what AI is supposed to do, which is to do that difficult, nuanced, weird stuff, which is critically important, and also has nothing to do with serving the customer. It has to do with making sure we don't fail the customer, but it doesn't seem that important, even though it's critical.
Yeah. That's 100% correct. And I think it all lays down, it's like, if you look at organizations today, they're already using some kind of AI platform, right? They're already using IDEs. You have engineers that are doing those kind of things. But one thing that haven't changed for them is the workflow. And what Autonomy AI brings to the table is to actually focus on the real problem. The real problem is the workflow. And workflow is not just, oh, how do I hand off something from one to another? Workflow is how my AI is actually playing with my existing environment, right? And build a coherent workflow. Me as a person, we're becoming lazier and lazier. What I want to do as a person is just write the North Star and make sure something will do everything for me end to end, right? And if it doesn't, I'm going to blame this thing that didn't do things, not me, right? That's how we're looking at the problem.
Yeah. I think that this is leading us into a complete shift in how startups and how companies are run. So I'm going to take us back maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years, early 1900s. Literally, the office paperwork was a row of people, which was a factory to work through paperwork. So somebody would read it, they put the right information into it, this person would approve it. It was a literal flow of paperwork, which we streamlined probably the late 1990s with emails and with workflows. What you're describing is now we're taking software, which used to have a huge number of people, and we're automating that so that the work of doing software is no longer the work of doing software. The work of software should be making software transparent and being able to listen to your customers and figure out how the customer wants to interact with the product, and then almost instantly be able to implement that.
Yeah. So first of all, I think we forgot through the process, right? It's literally paperwork, right? So people like were pushing papers, but forgot the goal of why they need to push papers.
Yes.
So that's what happened with software. We became so consumed with we need to write software, but forgot that software actually needs to deliver value for our clients and deliver value for the business in terms of revenue, right?
That is
so.
Yes, that is exactly what you said. It so much better than I did. Actually, I'm going to ask you to say it again because it was so good. That what did you say? We forgot the whole purpose.
We forgot the whole purpose around building software, right? We became so consumed on, hey, we need to build software for the sake of writing code, right? Or using all those kind of platforms instead of forgetting the real reason. The real reason is to actually generate value for our clients and revenue for our business, right? So that's exactly what we were thinking all the time. And I'm like, why do we need to have to go through all these stages? I'll give you an example. Just a couple of hours ago, I had a conversation with a client, company, 4,000 employees. I talked to her with their CPTO, the Chief Product and Technology Officer. And the guy was like, listen, we're doing a whole upgrade for our current website, our current platform. And we've been working for a year 12 months with this UI external company. We've built the UI, we've built the Figma. Then we showed it to management. Management said, no, we want to change a few things. We went through another iteration. Now we maybe start writing a little bit of the code. Seems like it's not operating with the right code, but we're writing everything with Claude code. We're going back and forth. And I'm like, great story, Daniel. Like, I love what you just said. Let me show you what you can do. Instead of going through this entire process, right? I'm giving you a unified platform that you can actually write everything, generate everything in one place, see it in real time, change everything. Behind the scenes, we will write the entire code for you based on your standards. And then all you need to do is ship it for development for them to review and push it into production. And he was like, explain again? that was he's like, explain again? And I'm like, I'll show you this again. It was like, so what you are saying, I could have shaved off a whole year? I'm like, probably yes. And that's the wow moment I want to create for my clients, right? That's the value. I'm like, you can actually move faster. That's what I'm here for, right? I can actually make your business, your delivery team healthier, your entire delivery healthier, and make you more competitive.
Yeah. Well, and sorry, so I have this character in my head. I have a bunch of characters. One of them is, her name is Surely Not. And she walks into the room and she's like, surely not. That's not how that works. No, that's 100% how that works.
Yeah.
And no, I love this epiphany moment because we get so wrapped up in how smart we are when we're like making code and how hard the project is. Whether you're a project manager or the senior program technician, you're like, no. And what you're really saying in those meetings is, look how hard I worked. Look how important I am. I'm doing something that nobody else can do. And the answer is, nope, not anymore. It all changed. But that's not a bad thing, because now what if we took that same team and we integrated it with those soft people, like the sales people and the contracts people? And what if everybody could contribute to the code? And what if our strategic plan was to triple our features this year, not just add 2 minor bug fixes, right?
Yeah. And I think it's, at the end of the day, for people, who are listening to us talking right now, it's a strategic decision. So we're coming back to who's executing this, right? We're talking about the developers, we're talking about the CTO. Like, at the end of the day, if you have a business, it's software business, you have 3 basic truths, right? You need to move fast, you need to move cheap, and you need to move in high quality. 3 basic things you always need to think about, right? And I think having the current paradigm doesn't serve you. And as a business owner, as a business leader, as a CEO of a company, you need to think every morning, how can I make everything in a more efficient way with those 3 basic truths that I mentioned right now, right? So for us, when we talk with companies, we don't start with the people or with the individual contributors that are actually going to execute on those kind of things or some of the areas. We actually talk with the business leaders and we ask them, hey, where are your bottlenecks? How do you want to make your business better, right? That's what's important. Again, not the actual writing of the code, but the actual ability to deliver to clients.
So let's talk about your clients here for a second. And by all means, change the names to protect the guilty. Initially when we met, I thought this would be a great technology for startups. Obviously, it's a great technology for startups. But really, your clients are pretty good sized clients. Are we talking about 100 people or 200 people? How many folks are in your coding base of the clients that you're beginning to work with?
Yeah, so the majority of the companies we have are companies that are B and C round. We have quite a handful of companies that are enterprise organizations, so a few thousand employees from that matter. And again, we're selling or going to market with the product for 6 months. We're getting huge traction around from the enterprise organizations because they're thinking about it from that paradigm, right? We have more tasks, we have less ability to execute on those tasks. What can we do better from that perspective? How can we accelerate things? So many of our clients are like in this growth stage that they want to execute on.
So I'm going to put my naysayer hat on here, right? Like, well, Claude and ChatGPT, they're going to be doing the same thing in a year and a half. Why are you confident as a boss or as a CEO of this company? Why are you confident that even as Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity and Base 44 improve, that Autonomy AI is going to be here in 10 years?
Because they all want to serve, from our business case, they all want to serve individual contributors. We don't. we want to serve companies. So a year from now, where autonomy is going to be is the ability to actually build a fully autonomous software business. Meaning, let's go back to the basic values, basic principles. You need to serve clients. If clients aren't happy, we can actually understand why they're not happy and actually write the entire product PRD, basically the product description of what needs to be done, fully autonomously, execute on the code, release it into review in a fully autonomous way. That's where autonomy is going towards, right? And building a full autonomous software business. From a competition perspective, what competitors are focusing about is like, oh, we want to focus on the current paradigms and how we can make it faster and better, and want to make sure that we want to save the same workforce that they have. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on how we can make businesses better and faster.
I love because that's the point, is that we're all in business. We're humans kind of out here on this flat level playing field, and we're just staring at each other. And then some of the other folks are like, well, we're better than you. Like, no, we're just humans here trying to serve one another. And when you lose track of that, all of a sudden these pyramids and these these empires get built that are unhealthy. But if you can always stay focused on, hey, no, we're trying to serve the customer, and that's the job. I love that that's so core to your ethos. We are kind of running out low on time here, so I'm just going to give you the floor for a couple of minutes. Just talk to the audience, and so floor is yours, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Drew. I think from our perspective, what we're enabling for organizations today and how companies are working with us today is actually taking intent and what they want to do in their product and how they're seeing their next roadmap. And instead of having it like being executed over quarters and quarters, doing it in literally days, right? So the ability to bring intent into delivery closer, the ability to actually make sure that your business is not falling behind in competition. On the contrary, it's actually getting ahead of competitors and making them look be in shock from that matter of like, oh, how can this company execute faster? That's what lies behind Autonomy's philosophy. Every company we work with, the first thing we do and we want to do is to analyze their bottlenecks and make sure that our product, our platform, Autonomy, with we are coding agent, and Faye Studio, our coding agents for product people, can actually deliver value where those bottlenecks are. So that's from our perspective.
Man, I love it. It can't be better said. Hold on, my camera has died on me here. So this kind of reminds me of 3D printers. When they first came out, people thought, oh, 3D printers are cool, but it took us years before we figured out how to implement 3D printing, because it was kind of a vanity thing. Oh, look at me, I'm this cool tech guy, I got this cool tool. And as you're describing it, I get this epiphany that the way that I use ChatGPT and the way most people use is kind of like a me-centered idea. Like, oh, look how much faster I can do my job, as opposed to look at how many more people I can serve and how can we rethink that. I love it. I think so just the audience here as we close up, listen, Adir is being humble. He has created something amazing. This is not his first rodeo. He's done this 3 other times. He's built companies from $0 to $10 million. So he's been in your shoes. If you are an executive and you're looking at your team, you have a little bit of that AI hangover. You say, wait a minute, I was promised this beautiful thing, but it's just more work than it's more headache than it's worth to try to fix this. I want to I'm on the hook. This year, my bonus is based on me implementing AI translation, industry 4.0, whatever you want to say. You're on the hook to implement AI, and you know that there's no bang in that buck. Adir and his team has answered that question for you. For those enterprise level companies that say, we got this huge code base, we want to start enabling our customer service agents to listen to the customer and start prototyping functional, solid, reliable features today without the whole infrastructure and putting it on a strategic roadmap. Adir and his team at Autonomy AI is your team. Give him a call. Tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. And with that, we are out.